Shares of Intel popping today as the chipmaker predicted a return to sales growth in the fourth quarter, fueled by a rebound in the personal computer market, but also a more competitive product lineup. Joining us now is Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger. And look, Pat, there was quite a long list of things that investors cheered, right? This is the third quarter where the markets basically said, Pat, we believe you on the turnaround story. But on your to-do list, where do you think you are and what do you think you have left to do on that turnaround story?
Yeah, thanks, Ed. And, overall, hey, it was a great, as we say, just a clean beat and raise on all the financial metrics. But even more important was the operational performance. And, as we said, hey, getting back to process leadership. And we, delivered key milestones. And we still have at least another year or two to go on getting that done. But major milestones, starting to deliver foundry customers. I promised one at the start of the year, and now we have 3 on our most advanced process technology, major packaging wins, and of course the product execution. Clean launch of the AI PC generation, but also the server business getting back to profitability ahead of schedule, and a little bit better performance there, and delivering the AI everywhere message with our accelerators, our server product line. So a really excellent quarter, and I'm just so grateful for the Intel team. It's been a journey, and we are clearly coming back.
Pat, you've talked to investors and indeed to Caroline and I about these new customers for the foundry business. When do we get names? When are you going to announce who these customers are?
Well, 2 things there, Ed. One is it's not generally the practice of the foundry industry for the foundry to be declaring their customer names. So one, it's not practice, and also many of the customers consider it confidential and part of their competitive advantage in how and what technologies they choose. So I can't promise names, but we're going to characterize them as best we can. And as we said, these are high performance and AI customers, and we've really seen the surge of interest in using the Intel technologies and foundry for different AI offerings in the marketplace. And that's both a wafer, but also a packaging. And this idea of advanced packaging, I mean, in addition to the 3 on the wafer side, we had 2 advanced packaging customers in AI, and that revenue materializes more rapidly, and 6 more in the pipeline. So overall, a really substantial quarter. And the AI space in particular has been the customers that have seen the most enthusiasm.
Let's talk about the AI space, because the running of AI models is where you see your future. It's not all just about the foundation models. It's actually the running of them, not just the building. But can you just relieve some of the anxiety coming from investors about a lack of clarity over data center future? And indeed, what is it that they need to hear from you? What more can you articulate that really makes it clear to them that you're going to be front and center in the AI race?
Yeah, thanks, Carolyn. And, really, first let's characterize what we're talking about. This idea of creating, these frontier or foundation models, as is described, versus using, right, and the training and the inferencing against those models. And I sort of compare it to like weather models. Not that many people generate weather models, but a lot of people use them. And that's how we think about this next phase of AI. How do we make this inferencing or the use of the models broadly available? And that's going to be, in the client, right? We talked about the AI PC. It's going to be at the edge, right, in retail and manufacturing and supply chains. But it's also going to be in on-premise data centers. And as we've said, instead of taking my data to the cloud, I want to bring the AI to my data center where the data is already. And finally, work in the cloud. And, for the data center proper, as your question talks about, hey, we knew we were going to lose some market share here, right? Those losses happened last year, and they're sort of playing out in the marketplace. But our roadmap is strong. And we executed in the quarter on our next gen, our Gen 4 product, but did a bit better than we thought, and a lot of AI use cases in this area of inferencing. The next generation, Gen 5, we're already ramping that in production, and that's going to get announced in December. But next year's products, we're already seeing great health, and we're ahead of schedule on those, and those really improve our competitiveness. And the 25 products will go into fab in the first quarter of next year. So our whole roadmap and execution has really improved, and we start to see ourselves regaining market share in 24 in that area. And I think that will be sort of the final piece of the turnaround story when, the market sees, okay, data center is back strong, they're winning in the AI space. That'll be the end of the turnaround story, and people say, okay, they did it.
Well, going back to that building, that training of data, can you talk a little about Stability AI? Of course, you've got a deal to build their AI supercomputer. Was that them really going to you for ultimately what Gaudi can provide over what NVIDIA would? Or is it that you wanted to really be sort of offering them some carrots in the situation to be able to be helping with the training of the models?
Yeah, great question. And, now with Gaudi, we're now delivering performance and benchmarks that are as good as the best in the industry. So we've gotten our performance there. There was also some of this work that, the models were created and much of the software industry was working, on the NVIDIA platform. So we had to do some of the software work to get those running on the Gaudi platform. And they're looking for more cost-effective choices and ones that are supply chain available in the industry. And as we're ramping our Gaudi product line, we're getting that software work done. They're priced more competitively. Customers are saying, wow, I can do that work and do it at a much lower power performance envelope than the alternatives, and have a much more cost-effective model training and inferencing at scale. Okay, we're seeing a real surge of interest. And as I said, we doubled our pipeline of customers this quarter, and we, like others in the industry, are now supply chain constrained, and we're racing to catch up to that demand on our Gaudi product line.
For our Bloomberg radio and television audience worldwide, we're speaking to the CEO of Intel, Pat Gelsinger. Pat, the story of this week has been chip companies entering the PC processor market on ARM architecture. How do you hold off those newcomers? Attention, for example, on Apple this coming Monday, and they have done well in that domain.
Yeah, and I think the AI, PC as an exciting category. And this is one that we announced, and we've been the first company on that. And we're now ramping our first generation AI PC products called the Core Ultra. So others are talking about what they might do in a year or 2 years. We're ramping products in the marketplace, today. We announced over 100 ISVs in our AI acceleration program, so they're coming on board. And before others have their products even shipping in the marketplace, we'll be launching our next generation, our Lunar Lake product, which we've already demonstrated for next year. And Panther Lake, our 25 product, we're sending that into fab on our leadership Intel 18A process technology in Q1. So I feel like we have a very strong roadmap. And hey, the idea of an ARM-based PC, they've always been sort of niche and low end, with the exception of Apple. And there it's not ARM. It's Apple and their ecosystem. So for the broader Windows ARM market, it's always been pretty low end, right, and insignificant in the bigger context. And as long as we deliver our roadmap, I feel very confident that as others surge into the AI PC space, this is a lift to the overall PC market, and we'll be uniquely positioned to benefit from that.
Pat, going back just a second to Stability and the AI supercomputer, that's kind of in the assembled component domain. But are you saying, or are you able to confirm, that's a paid relationship where Stability pays you for use of Gaudi?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is a major customer, and we'll be building that with them, of course, working closely with them. But this is a paid customer relationship. We also see quite another set around our OEMs. We announced a major partnership with Dell, right, for not only Xeons, but also Gaudis as they come on-premise and their cloud offerings. We've seen a big upsurge in Gaudi interest in the Intel Developer Cloud. We had a 5x increase in the developers on our developer cloud, much of that on the Gaudi platform. And as I said, we saw well over $1 billion last quarter. We've approximately doubled that this quarter of Gaudi demand worldwide, and those are largely paid customer engagements. So overall, we're just seeing a surge of interest with Stability AI, Dell, and many others.
Pat, every earnings look to your forecast for the PC market, and you're slightly more positive than consensus in terms of literally how many PCs you think will ship around the world this year. I guess part of that is baked into your sales forecast for the current period as well. What gives you that confidence, and why is it that consumers will return to buying PCs?
Yeah, and there's probably three different factors there. One is I can say, hey, we gave this 270 million-ish PCs being sold through this year. And we said that earlier in the year. Many thought that we were too optimistic. Hey, we look at it today and we're almost, spot on with our accuracy on that forecast. Second, we've seen the industry, not just Intel, but the industry overall, inventory levels are now healthy. When we look at our sell-in rate versus sell-out rate, the product is selling through. I'd also say, hey, we're off to a good start in Q4. We're a couple of weeks into the quarter, and as I said on the earnings call, really good start to Q4 as well. And, seasonality is a bit above in Q4 historical levels. We also have things like Windows 10 end of service coming from Microsoft. Microsoft's about to release their Copilot products. But I'd say the sizzle in the marketplace is around this AI PC, broad new use cases for the PC. And I've compared it to the Centrino moment of 20 years ago when Centrino really ushered Wi-Fi at scale into the industry. And we think that's exactly what's going to happen with the AI PC. It will be a driver of new applications and use cases for the PC and bringing a bit more excitement, a bit acceleration, more users coming into the marketplace because it's going to give significant new capabilities to PC users.
Is that what gives you your gross margin level of 60% again? Is that where the confidence comes from?
Well, to get our overall gross margins up above 60%, I need the whole business to improve, Carolyn. Obviously, we're making good progress in the PC. I also need to improve my factory network. And as we get back to leadership, we finish this super aggressive 5 nodes in 4 years. I'm churning through capital very rapidly to get back to leadership. That's a big factor. Getting the data center business healthy, going back to one of your earlier questions, another factor in getting back to our margin structures. One of the other things we did this quarter was also have great operational success on our cost-saving initiatives. And we said, we would result in $3 billion savings. We've also cleaned up the company. I've exited 10 businesses since I've been here. And now we think we're finished with that phase. And we just get focused on growing the company again to the future. So part of it's growth. Part of it's this focus areas across the businesses, and part of it's just increased operational discipline. But this quarter's results, we're well on our way to accomplishing that.
And you talk of operations there, and we didn't get time to talk about it, but we know that you do indeed have operations in Israel, and we think of your own employees and your infrastructure there at this time, Pat. So thank you very much for spending some time with us and walking us through your numbers. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger there.